Don't believe in the cloud. There you go.
Where is the cloud?
I have no idea. It's everywhere and anywhere and nowhere at the same time.
I never wanted to be your weekend lover. You're doing Prince proud, dude.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of screwed it up, but hey, that's kind of tradition, right? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you now.
Mike.
But, I mean, you're always taking a risk. I mean, Prince is probably one of the greatest guitarists of all time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Him and Hendrix, they similar style.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Even
awesome.
though, you know what? I'll have to admit, his solo on the actual recording is kind of a funky. It's kind of messy, actually. When he plays it live, it's oh my god.
I remember
off the chart. I mean, it just doesn't register in the realm of reality and possible. It's just
when you talk about live and you talk about the song Purple Rain, that album, that movie, and then that tour, the tour was almost unprecedented. Because I remember growing up and he had to keep adding extra nights in all the tour dates in all the cities because the one or the two weren't cutting it. I mean, I think there was so much just hysteria and demand. And so I remember in Houston, they ended up having 7 nights in a row, there. I tell people all the time, it was the best concert I ever saw.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Purple Rain tour was insane. All the set changes, the costumes. It wasn't just a concert. It was. And I think and Sheila E. opened for him. And that was awesome.
No way.
She's on her drums doing that stuff. Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah. We're on episode 150, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Woo! Fireworks.
Who would have thought?
Boom.
Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? We started this when the world was ending in COVID. We probably didn't even think we were going to be alive for episode 150. Oh
yeah.
And yet here we are.
Now we have boosters for the boosters, and everybody has testing strips in the back of the closet.
Yeah. It's becoming a necessity.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Hey, lots of fan mail coming into the virtual chat for Ryan, and the top question is: does he smell like Team Spirit? And it's his heart-shaped box.
It is. It is indeed. It is indeed.
I should have played Team Spirit. Yeah. I picked the wrong song.
Classic.
Yeah.
That heart-shaped box song, I have some flashback to, if you remember Wayne's World and Mike Myers. And so I remember him being on MTV DJing one time, guest hosting, and he was dressed up, like he was from Wayne's World. And he was playing that song. And of course he wants you to tell you the new words and he was like, it's like, hey, Wayne. And it kept doing that. I don't know. There's a little trivia for all you kids out there who weren't alive with MTV back then, or never saw the Purple Rain tour either.
Oh yeah.
Sorry to all you Gen Z kids and millennials who missed out on all that good stuff. Right?
Oh man, what is this doing?
What are we talking about today? What's going on in IoT?
I don't know. Hold on. What do you go? Keep talking.
We got a guest star. Talking. We have a guest star.
We got a guest star. Awesome.
Don't bite.
It's apparently his IoT geofence is not working today. He just totally strolled in forbidden territory.
Wow.
Jacked up hair. Yeah, he just invaded my office. Obviously,
It happens.
he doesn't know that he's not supposed to be here. Dude, your hair is like jacked up, man. All
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Ryan, what's going on with you, man? What's the latest?
Not much. Getting on the road. I'm probably hitting Vegas, NYC, and Atlanta in the next 2 months here. Just talking IoT, Edge Compute, some fun stuff.
You gonna be talking about DeviceWise?
Oh yeah, yep. Lots of DeviceWise in the near future. We got some cool stuff coming out too. We do all the edge logic similar to Node-RED and the connectivity part, but I've been doing a lot more dashboarding and visualization lately.
Yeah.
And that's really my favorite part because that's what the customer sees. That's what the customer touches. That's where all the value is said. So what all these thousands of data points coming up with something that's not too cumbersome and only displaying the right data at the right time for someone is very, very beneficial without being overwhelming. And it's really hard to do, right? And so I'm trying to figure out how to have ChatGPT do some design best methods, and whether that's layouts or work instructions. I've been thinking a lot about, of course, everyone, ChatGPT, right? A new tool. Right. So I'm like, how can I make my life easier? How can I make everyone else's life easier?
Wow. There's a lot of love coming from Ryan, man. He's making people's lives easier with his special assistant, ChatGPT. You know what, though? That is a big problem because you're right. Where do we start? We start with all these devices and associated sensors sending us tons of data, but you can't show all that to people because it's just a flood of data. And so you're right. You got to streamline it. You're doing reports. You're filtering down. You're finding out what really, really matters. Or, like what report by exception, right? Kind of like you do in manufacturing. Sometimes the best dashboard, especially if you're doing report by exception, is no dashboard at all. There's a notification that, hey, you need to worry about this. 1 million data streams are coming in, but here's the one thing that matters. Do that today.
Rob, but you're describing something that's culturally shocking because in the world of dashboards, culturally, like there's this lots of screens with lots of things going on. Now, mind you, there isn't a single problem. Like no one has to take any action, but you're used to basically saying 100 screens, everything is okay, instead of having one screen or one notification telling you, hey, this is broken or it's about to break. So as much as we love like report by exception, it's the exception.
I'll give you a good example of narrowing it down. If you whenever you're in an airport and you're going through the TSA security line and you go through the millimeter wave thing that's zapping you. Yeah. Do you notice what the display is that the TSA security people are looking at when you come the other side? It's a big screen and it's either this big green, like, okay, or red, no bueno. And that's it. They distill down everything that happens to red or green, okay, no okay.
Yeah. And the ones that have the second one that have like the human image, and they'll tell you like, check the wrist or check the belt or, just go there and that's it.
Because these guys got to just move.
And but I always got to tell the guys like, dude, it went to my wrist. Why are you in my crotch, man? But it's so long. It's so good. I love the airports.
Well, that's the difference between what do you say, data or information? I guess, right? Like one is raw data coming in, and one's processed data with it's giving you guidance and that. I don't want to play Where's Waldo on my dashboard looking at, okay, here's 12 numbers and my brain's immediately like, well, what was the number on the last cycle? Or what is the numbers yesterday, right? And it's like distracting your brain from doing that task at hand, like you said. So only show me when there's problems, but I'd like to see, if you have like a Chromecast stick, has like those peaceful wave backgrounds, like show me a screensaver like that, look over, oh, everything's good, right? Everything's good. And then next segment, show me that one data point. Hey, check your wrist for TSA, or it could be check this sensor in this spot with a little heat map on it or something.
I prefer the window vista rolling hills green space. That's the meaning of peace.
Yeah.
I've been getting into a lot of these digital twin debates lately, and based on what you guys have been talking about, it really makes you wonder, okay, well, because you have this camera say, well, it needs to be 3D, it needs to be immersive and simulation, blah, blah, blah. Based on what you guys are saying, it really makes you wonder, through the life cycle of a asset, how important is all this like high fidelity 3D modeling and visualization when at the end of the day, once that asset's in the field, you actually don't want to hear anything about it. You don't want to see it. You don't really give a crap if it's a 3D model. You just want to know, like what you guys are saying, when something is about to go wrong, hopefully, if you're lucky, and when it does go wrong. And it just needs to be flat out simple with a couple of basic, data points, so that you can go and react to it, right? Or the thing is already plugged into some sort of autonomous closed loop, self-healing type of capability, and it heals itself and you never hear about it, right? But this notion that through the life cycle, outside of the PLM part or PDM part, where does this 3D model actually play outside of dashboarding and in certain instances for smart cities? But for an asset, I mean, it's got to be pretty limited. You know what I'm saying? Before
Bill and Rob just poo all over this, remember that there's we got to think of the audience. The OEM might have an opinion. The distributor who's ultimately installing this thing for the customer might have an opinion, and the end customer might have an opinion to the one question you just asked. And it is wildly different between the OEM and that end user about who cares about what and who's selling to who at the end of the day.
Sure. No, but that question is
no, you know what? I think, Leonard, I think you grasp something here today. I love digital twins, but man, we shouldn't be just doing this stuff just for the sake of doing it. It's like the dashboards. I remember when we built Lumada at Hitachi, and we had all the dashboards showing all the stuff like you expect to see. And then it became apparent to me, it's like, these dashboards are for? They're for the sales guy with his laptop when he's showing it to customers.
Exactly.
Because they need to
a pretty demo.
They need to see something. But at runtime in the real world, it should be report by exception, and I should see almost nothing. Exactly. And so that digital model and the digital twin, it is fun, but you're right. We shouldn't get all consumed with technology. We have a job to be done, and we only need to know when there's problems or we're heading towards a problem, right? I always blast all that stuff saying you don't want a system where you're Homer Simpson looking at the nuclear reactor dashboard in Chernobyl, okay? That's not how we work anymore. We use that stuff for sales only.
Yeah.
Or when we're at a conference.
It's for a PowerPoint slide. It's not for the factory floor, right? That's all it is.
I keep going to all these oil and gas conferences, and man, they just love their digital twins of the offshore drilling rig. And what do you do with that? I don't know, but it looks really cool.
I mean, I think. Look, I hear your question, Leonard, and I think it all makes sense. But I think the biggest problem that we're running into is this: there's a convoluted message that's being delivered about digital twins. In a manufacturing environment, it's different. In a field deployed environment for a city, it's different. For the operation of critical infrastructure, it's yet again different. The 3D model piece, the BIM modeled stuff, is useful for geospatial awareness. As it relates to a city or a device that is being monitored in the field. It helps build up the construct I don't need them. I mean, to be honest, for the stuff that I do, I don't need a 3D model of that at all. I do need GIS because I think GIS is extremely important in terms of building this and everything like this. But again, anyone that tells me they've got a digital twin platform, get the hell out of Dodge. There is no one size fits all, people. It doesn't. I am going through the same process every single time, no matter what city it is, no matter what it is that we're building out. And I'm asking repeatedly, do you have GIS? Do you have shape files? Do you have these things? If you don't, now we have to go and get them. Okay, so that's one piece of the foundation. Everyone gets so enamored about the real-time data and everything like that. And I'm like, you got to treat the data first. You don't just I built a digital model and here you go and feed the data in and look at that magic. It doesn't happen that way. Yeah. You are building these things based on a set of desired outcomes. So you have to know what data you're actually grooming into this thing and what the desired output is. The visualization is nothing more than a way to see a multitude of data streams in a on a screen. So let's dispense with the digital twin platform stuff. You can have a platform that ingests data, treats the data, and visualizes the data. Okay, that creates your digital twin. But you're not going to come out with an out-of-the-box thing and go plug your data in here and automatically you're going to see this stuff. So you need, in cities, it's huge because if you have the buildings and you're doing, let's just say you're doing a Vision Zero exercise. You want to understand, how many right turns are being made and where are they making the right turns and when are they making the right turns and near misses and all of this stuff. Yes, having a building there and having the poles there and all of that stuff is hugely important. But for me, it's the foundation, treating the data, how you treat the data and how you expose it.
Yeah. No, I think you're making a really good point. I mean, that visual model, the 3D stuff, the immersive stuff has its role in certain phases and certain purposes. And, all that stuff is really expensive. I don't think people realize that. They talk like, everyone's going to have a friggin' industrial metaverse of stuff, but it's like,
it just triggered me.
Yeah, there's just certain things you just aren't going to friggin' take that far. You're just going to have a meta model, right? And you're going to work with that. And it could it's like what Rob always says. It could be really friggin' simple.
It could be like Zork. It could just be text-based.
Yeah, Zork.
It could be.
Exactly.
It could be,
I'll tell you, there's one thing, and this came about through a set of conversations recently. So for the city managers and everything like that, the visualization, the digital twin dashboard it's important to them. There's something for them to show that needs no further discussion around what data it is. But when people are operating these things for the traffic engineers and for things like that, give them CLI. They want CLI. They want to see where the data is, how the data is being collected and what's happening, and can they jump in and augment things along the way. So they are like, yeah, the visual piece is nice. I prefer CLI.
You're so cool, dude.
It could
You're
be
a
simple.
CLI guy.
No. Hey, Stephanie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome,
Stephanie.
welcome to the 150th episode of our show.
I'm excited. I'm excited that I actually got to join in.
Yeah, that's awesome to have you. We're talking about digital twin again.
That's a good topic. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what, Bill? Because you're right. If you think about a digital twin of the building, another view of that is it could just be text. It's a bunch of containers. I've got a building, and the building has floors, and each floor has a bunch of rooms, and each room may have a variety of IoT sensors and devices, like occupancy, right? That's a big one, that interacts with lighting and HVAC and stuff like that. And you can navigate through buildings and properties and stuff like in the city, almost text-like, if you have to. if you have to, without the 3D model. The 3D model is like this bonus plan or, something.
Well, it is, right? I mean, what's that PIR sensor saying? That PIR sensor is saying someone moved here.
Yeah.
So literally, if you have that level of tracking, if you're using a cell phone, then that cell phone is telling you, based on the sensors that are in that cell phone, the GPS position of that device. And you correlate that. It's a data fusion exercise between the device and the location of the person within a room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That you're representing on a dashboard, but you can also represent it in text.
It's interesting, Bill. I'm hearing lately, and you've probably been hearing it longer than I have, just besides just occupancy in rooms and offices and buildings, there's just the term utilization. I'm hearing that more lately. How much is a place being utilized by tenants or people visiting an office or a whatever,
Well, you know who that's important to? The real estate owner.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The person that's renting that building. We need 45,000 square feet. What is our space utilization?
Yeah.
Right. So, Bill, how are we going to rescue? Let's just talk about IoT and digital twins rescuing commercial real estate. You guys may or may not be aware, but the average occupancy across the United States is what, 40 or 50% now?
Wow.
And so you've got a lot of building owners and managers that are sweating right now because everybody's working from home and saying, I'm not coming back. Mm-hmm. What are these? Is there something we can do with IoT to help them? Tell me.
Today, each of us, we're going to go out there to our respective cities and we're going to sign a 14-year lease for 80,000 square feet of space each. And we're going to hire the best and the brightest. Let's just hire 82,000 people each, and we will take a chunk and double the rate of occupancy in the US at the moment. No work from home, kids. We got to go to the office because we're paying for this and it's really expensive. But there will be ping pong tables.
Well, I mean, look at what the big boys have done as of late, right? They've started eliminating the perks, like Google took away the dinners and all of that stuff. That stuff is going away. That is, man.
That's you know what? That's like the ultimate morale killer. Put that kind of crap out there, away, man. That's like getting global services on United and having them take that away.
Take it away.
It's great. It's a great experience. It's really painful when they take it away from you.
Well, they're killing off the dinner. They're killing off the take home. The take home boxes, and they're killing off the massages. So no more massages, you Googlers, and things like that. And I'm like, you know what? It really, you should just get them a bunch of shirts that just say "I'm here for the dinner" and continue to pay them and feed them.
Mm-hmm. But like Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Exactly. One of my favorite quotes ever.
That is one of the. Marshawn Lynch is actually a national treasure.
Yes.
Bill, but this is a big thing. I mean, I'm kind of serious. I got to believe in the smart cities, and I'm kind of touching it now with one of the clients I'm working with. This is a big deal. How do we rescue commercial real estate, which is part of the bedrock of smart cities, right? Cities are made of buildings, and I know that they're all scrambling and probably trying to look for the best and brightest ideas to get people to come back. Is it
the first thing? But look at the cities themselves. How many people in the cities are going to the office? And it's not that many. Yeah. I've seen more cities start to migrate to providing services so that operations can happen from wherever you're at.
I'd like to see it switch from. Oh, are you going to jump in, Stephanie?
Well, I was just going to say I had a conversation this last week with a campus, and I'd say that we have a huge opportunity right now because I think everyone's trying to figure out, gun control, safety, security on campuses, and what can we do to mitigate. And so the surveillance and security side of it, and where digital twins can play a role. and where IoT can play a role on the perimeter. So one of the schools I was talking to, their big thing right now is their campus is expanding. And so they know that they're going to have to put up a fence, but they want to have some kind of sensor system on the fence all the way around. And they don't want the cameras to be up 24/7. They want a sensor to tell them someone's breached the perimeter.
Yeah.
We need cameras to turn on. We need to identify what has breached, because in the hill country out here too, it's animals, it's deer, it's things that can jump, but people, they want to know that a person is coming across that campus, because that means they have X number of minutes to put the plan in place and to secure and lock down the school. Right. And so there's a huge opportunity right there. And I'm sure that infrastructure in the cities as well, the buildings have, there's security and surveillance protocols in place, but these government buildings that are definitely a part of that equation, think about downtown, and even the schools that are downtown. There are a lot of schools and campuses and colleges that are downtown that are looking at the same thing, and they'll spend a lot of money on security and surveillance. It's not a matter of can we budget that. It's a priority now, and it's been a priority. So that's a huge opportunity, I think, for the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if people don't feel safe, they're not going to show up. Right. Whether it's commercial real estate or a university, they'll avoid going to that school. And so having that extra safety wherever you're going. And then I think it's also about convenience too. So you could take all these metrics on, okay, you have maybe a security-based camera system, so they know that they have an automated protocol in place. But also, if I'm traveling to a city, so many people just go to a Starbucks and work out of a Starbucks, right? Because they have that expected kind of experience. But I think if they shift from kind of a B2B mindset to more B2C for a lot of these large buildings, like automating, like, okay, whether it's a conference room registration, kind of co-working spaces, right? More like that. And then having multiple amenities would be much more effective for these big commercial real estate buildings that are just sitting there. So you could have sensors for air quality or like your temperature in your space and doing metrics on things like that. Or even maybe like a social network, right? If you want to opt in to have friends, like, hey, let me know when this person enters the office, and they approve it, right? Privacy is a big issue there. Say, oh, well, if I see 3 of my friends are at this co-working space locally, okay, I can probably take my afternoon there and then have it maybe through an app register. So there's this kind of convenience, security. What are you doing with all of this different data points and choosing which ones to kind of use to fill up that? But I think I'm a big sensor guy. So the more sensors, the more cameras, I like it.
I could just text Rob to meet me at Factoria outside of Seattle, and we're good. And, boom, just on my way, Rob.
Boom.
Chili.
Boom.
It's
I wonder
convenient.
what's happened. I wonder what's happened to the co-working spaces, because a lot of them were like popping up pre-COVID all over the place, and then everyone went to work from home. I mean, I think there's still a market for individuals that they just can't work from home because they're not productive, or they don't have the tools, or there's kids, it's too noisy or whatever. But I wonder what that market's I wonder how that's shaken out, because I see some new ones popping up in and around San Antonio, and I'm like, they're brand new. They're building them right now. So I'm wondering if there's a whole niche of professionals out there. They're like, I'm not going into the office, but I'm going to go into my own personal workspace. And hey, that building's so cool. It knows when I'm there. And there's some safety surveillance, and maybe the HVAC system kicks down or not, because there's more, the occupancy is kind of increasing, and, there's some electricity monitoring. Hey, I respect that. There's some green sustainability features in the building that I'm working at. I don't know. I'm curious. Have y'all seen anything?
Spark just opened up a co-working space in Arlington. I think I'm going to check out in 2 weeks here. But I know they said that they're actually seeing more businesses signing long-term agreements with them instead of traditional consumers for the flexibility. And they're paying full year leases up ahead of time. And so you have a lot, like those are actually starting to grow, from what I've feedback from one of the people I know there, that they're seeing much more kind of B2B stuff in agreements, not just the B2C with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think the co-working spaces are going to continue to grow. Honestly, smaller
we
ones.
lost some. We lost some though too. And I'm not just talking about WeWork. My favorite one was called Atlas Workbase in Seattle, right across the street from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I love being there. And I got so much work done, and they just couldn't make it. You know, they stayed barely alive through COVID. You know how they got the whatever loans, paycheck, whatever kind of thing. Yeah, but then when it was all over, not enough people were coming back, and they shut down. And I was so sad. I've been in Houston a bunch, and with friends working at what's another one? Industrious, I think, is a company that makes co-working spaces. And there's another one, I think, literally just called Spaces or something. And maybe is that the future of what offices should be like? Maybe the way a co-working place looks like. Maybe employees would rather be in that kind of environment. Maybe, I don't know.
Pay as you go. Maybe you get prepay for 10 visits, 10 days a week or whatever. I'm wondering if there's some really creative business models out there that meet some of the SMB market, and for those larger corporations that like, we're not buying a building or we're not renewing that lease, but we do need some space. So let's look at some of these third-party co-working spaces and maybe sign a long-term lease and have space.
Unpopular comment, but I think if more companies embrace the rentable workspace, one of the results of it, there will be a lot of middle management fat that gets cut out. Pick a large corporation, pick a large headquarters, just pick it, doesn't really matter. Where you have concentrations of people, how many middle managers do you just have being some sort of layer between senior leadership and everybody else? Where in reality, we're talking about reporting and visualization, right? That's what these people are doing.
Yeah.
You remove quarters, you spread people out. You don't need that many people. Look at McDonald's. McDonald's is doing layoffs, but they're targeting headquarters people.
Yeah.
Right. So there could be, there could be an advantage to this. I think for large companies that, senior leadership, those folks should be together, as much as possible, wherever as possible, because, you're running a big company, but, everyone else, if you're not in a creative function, whatever creative means to you, why do you need to be there? Let people choose. And see how it snowballs from there. Maybe we have just more co-working spaces everywhere and less office spaces, just not, sorry, big real estate companies, but this is this is what I'm talking about with, a bunch of my friends.
Well, why would you say that creatives would have to, are you saying that creatives would be in the office? Is that what you?
No, that you don't, no, creatives don't need to be. And I'm seeing, so just to give you the specific example I'm thinking about, so within apparel, sportswear, music, like that crowd, they don't need to be in a specific space with group of, they could do their thing from the moon or in between.
Yeah, well, you know what? There is this interesting thing that I'm starting to see. So I'm with the Forbes and Technology Council, and I submitted an article, and one of the things that they ask you to disclaim is that you did not use a generative AI engine to produce the article. And so I think as these tools become more popular, what could happen is that companies are going to demand, especially creative ones, proof of work. That it's weird. This is like blockchain, right? A concept. It's like, did you actually friggin' do the work?
Right.
So what the office space then becomes a perimeter where you can instill trust, and then all that digital assets, all that stuff can be monitored. You can filter out ChatGPT so that it cannot be used for certain purposes when at some point when we get there. Right now, who knows what this thing can do? Because Rick shared an article about how somebody accidentally put confidential corporate information onto ChatGPT.
I saw that.
Hearing people getting fired doing that.
Certain semiconductor company.
Yeah.
But it's right. It's like, do you think though that because they're embedding ChatGPT and other generative AI apps into all these productivity apps that it's going to get. I mean, corporations are going to have to say, I need to be able to turn that off with my software, because it's crazy.
It has to be opt-in. You do not set that crap on as an opt-out function, like what these guys have been doing. They've just I just got it was crazy. Like a month ago. I got a notification that it's now in Canva, so I can say I want to see a dog barking sitting on top of a car, and it'll create that picture for me. But then it has these the word portions as well. If I'm creating a PowerPoint or a written analysis of something, it's the same type of technology that we're seeing in ChatGPT, but it's the ability for the marketing agency to do that. And I'm like, here we go. Here comes the crap coming in. So and think about how many students and everyone else that uses Canva for everything that they're creating. I'm like, it's in every app out there now. Right. But
you're not creating. If you're doing that, you're not creating. That's the whole thing. Right. It is. It's the other reason why I don't care where it is. I don't care what I'm saying. People can feel how they want to feel. GPT stands for generally processed trash. That is bullshit, man. You got to be kidding me. There is nothing useful that's going to come out of this thing except for experimental stuff. And the more it proliferates, I mean, it pisses me off, because where is the intestinal fortitude to actually go off and learn something, become good at it, show your mastery of that subject, and then illustrate it in a creative fashion? Hey,
boomer, chill out, man. Okay, just chill.
I'm sorry.
Just chill the hell out.
He's like, it Bill's like taking the originality out of every little thing that I enjoy. No,
I feel like
if our friend Stephanie could save herself X minutes, X hours in creating content for one of her clients, and whether someone uses GPT or not, who cares? And it's very different if Ryan is taking someone that doesn't know what a PLC or an RTU or distributed control system is and gets into the factory and uses GPT. Wildly different outcomes. So let's
wildly different outcomes, but the same thing still stands. What is your sustainable competitive advantage in the market?
Oh, damn.
It goes away piece by piece.
There's
no originality. There's no creativity. There's no thought-provoking, production of anything. I think it's just like, we are going to, if we end up embracing this like crazy, everything's going to look the same and feel the same and be written
everything is going to be the same.
Everything is the same.
It feels like
just last week I was in Jersey. I'm with my goddaughters at the grocery store, and I'm telling her about blue corn. She had no idea. For her, corn is yellow. Corn is a commodity. Could we tell the difference between yellow corn in America today?
Well,
no. So not everything has to be differentiated.
So here,
I don't mind about commodities.
I had this weird screen scraping feel, like some of you are old enough when we started moving into Windows apps, and they built technology that could screen scrape 3270 terminals and put them into a GUI. Today with GPT, so I've used it. I'm like doing research to write a paper, which normally I am searching all over the internet to get content for the stuff I'm looking for, and then I said, well, GPT explained ... I'm not going to tell you what. And when it came back with some of the answers, I noticed some of the phrases or sentences were exactly the same as ones that I was finding just on websites as I was doing research. And then it's like, oh, it's just screen scraping the whole internet, basically, among other things. So I had two feelings about that. One might be a boomer feeling and one might be a Gen Z feeling. Part of me is like, oh, I can't believe this. But the other part was like, I got to get this thing done. And it's going to take me hours to go to all these websites and do this research and find this stuff. And then I can ask ChatGPT to explain this topic. And it gives me a bunch of answers. And I'll look at them to throw the BS flag. And guess what? It's coming back with pretty good stuff. And it's coming back with most of the stuff I would have spent 4x amount of time trying to research.
So are you saying that in terms of like quick ramp up, let me go, it's helping you maybe narrow down some of the search things that you would have to sit there and read one by one through Google, and maybe narrowing that down so you can kind of filter through and pull it all together?
100%. It's just like searching with Google, and it's just a different, maybe better way to do it. If Ryan says, what's the best protocol to connect to a Rockwell PLC? Mm-hmm. And it comes back with EtherCAT or whatever it is, something like that. And so I have to admit, my view has changed as far as just basic research. If I'm a researcher, I've got to create content. I'm not a kid in school doing plagiarism. I'm just a researcher. I would find the same stuff that ChatGPT would find, but it would take me infinitely longer to do it. So I'm kind of okay with that, as long as you're proofreading it and making sure, because as we know, Sam Altman's the first one to come out and tell you it's not always correct. And what it's coming with, just like your Google searches aren't always correct either.
Right.
The content you're finding.
Right. But what is it that makes you a good analyst or a good researcher? Irrespective, you got to get the data somewhere. Even someone that has to learn about it, that's going to become an SME, you're going to read a bunch of stuff. But what is it that makes you a good analyst or a good researcher around that kind of stuff?
Applying it to the client's need and putting it into perspective in terms of what they need it for. And that's it. That's all they want. Yeah. And they don't want to do the due diligence. You do the due diligence, you do the work, and you come up with the assessment and help us and communicate to us in terms of the execution piece. Maybe you're a part of the execution, maybe you're not. If you're a true consultant, you're probably in the office executing. Yeah. If you're an analyst, you're probably just communicating what that execution piece needs to look like, and what are all the pieces that make up that execution piece. That's it.
I think it's, I think it's that predictive lens that you have, but that's all, there's a lot that goes into it: experience, knowledge, and just being able to have this skill, actually an artful skill in filtering data, figuring out what is important. And, if your research isn't focused on just regurgitating stuff that other people have already written in terms of that point of view, then, it goes back to what you were saying, Stephanie, about generic. If you're just going off, depending on sources or a research assistant that goes through and, applies a generic lens to the corpus of data, then you just get generic stuff back. You never really learn. Actually, it's the pain. 80% of the pain is where you learn. And then 20%, which is what you actually use as the outcome. And that it seems easy, but to give it to a device to do the thinking for you. Sure, it's convenient, but what it does is it robs you of the opportunity to learn, because going through that struggle improves us. Depriving ourselves of that struggle, we don't learn anything. And so you're going to get up on stage and you'll actually really not know what the fuck you're talking about.
That's happening already.
Leonard,
business as usual.
We've talked about this. We've talked about this 150 times already. How many people pick a week, pick a venue, pick a stage, gets out there, words come out of these person's mouth, and it's all BS anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's scripted, it's read, it's prepared. They go there, they look good, they sound good, but you cannot ask a single question because it's a big house of freaking cards. So that's been happening. So, and I'm saying, I think these tools, like taking like, say, Bill's expertise and like this thing is not coming for Bill's business anytime soon. And to Stephanie's point, to be able to digest data and deliver it in the context of that customer that that's, it's not taking that away anytime soon.
No.
But for the people that just want put together some research and I need a quick, and I just want to read through things without spending hours, like Rob was saying, it's good enough. I keep coming back to this for what's good enough for GPT.
Right.
Not best, just good enough. We have nothing to worry about. We've been doing this for a bit, but it's got its space.
You assume that people have the discipline. But when you give somebody candy, dude, or if you give them massages for free, if you give them like friggin' lunches for free, you're gonna try weaning them off of that stuff. You know, you give
What's the massage episode?
huh?
What the hell?
The massage.
Is this the massage
This is
episode?
something. This is a very important topic in the industry right now. It's a very.
You know what? I
Don't
think
take
it's
away.
It's
People
just an
just-
evolution of technology. As a programmer, as a software developer, I have like hundreds of books that I've had over the years to teach me how to do this stuff. And then I really do the thing. And then however many years ago, Stack Overflow came along. And it was this great resource to find the answers to your programming problems even more quickly.
Mhm.
And people made fun of that. Oh, did you just copy and paste that from Stack Overflow? ChatGPT is no different. It's just another evolution of that same train that's heading down the tracks, you know? And you're right. Sometimes people really don't know what they're saying when they're on stage. And some people are just it's a research tool to help them do the thing. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the two. I guarantee you though, when he's about to go on the road and start speaking about this stuff. And when he's done speaking, and you know how people come up to you on stage after and ask you a lot of questions, I know Ryan's going to be able to answer all the questions cold because he does the stuff.
Right.
He knows it. Yeah.
Hopefully. Not always, but at least I can say it. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about with that one. You got to talk to my friend Rob or Leonard or Stephanie,
Versus
right?
versus the empty suit who's standing up there. Blah, 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 blah.
You know what a ChatGPT is? It's an overconfident technical salesperson is what ChatGPT is. It will very, very confidently give you a really good sounding answer, but it's not always going to be the right answer.
Yeah.
Enough to be dangerous, but when it comes to, okay, we need you to come into our offices and show us all of the details. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to reschedule that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, my calendar is just fully booked. But if you want to buy this, we can show you.
Hey, Bill, I was thinking back to our topic we were talking about before we got into GPT, the getting people back to offices. We were coming up with different ideas. You know, this is not just going to hurt the building owners, and it is hurting them. This is going to hurt the cities because the tax base that funds cities comes from the taxes from all those skyscrapers and commercial buildings. And if those guys start defaulting on their loans to keep those things going, I could see a domino effect that could impact every city in the country or the world.
And you know what? You were talking about PPP. And the reality is we've just about hit the pinnacle where all that PPP funding is phasing out. I'm already starting to see a ramp up of articles and news stories about folks are not able to pay the SBA, the Small Business Administration, those EIDL loans, those PP. I mean, it's all kind of hitting a wall. We're right now at the cusp, so we're going to start seeing all those banks that did take all that funding and took these loans that they're not able to produce the income to pay them. And so we're probably going to see the second half of this year, quite a few of those businesses just fail and go under because they can't pay the SBA. The SBA will get you can get away with 2-3 months defer, maybe work out a payment plan, and then what? So I feel like we're a little bit at the cusp of seeing some of these businesses that took and just leaned on the SBA. It's the small and mid-sized businesses are not going to be able to manage it.
You know what? In real estate, commercial, these Class B and Class C buildings, those guys might just die. The people who own Class A office space, they might be able to refinance their loans. But of course, guess what happens when you refinance them today versus a year ago?
Woo! Interest
rates
It hurts.
are so much higher. And so it's going to be a more expensive loan to refinance your building. This is a thing.
It is, but to get people back, I mean, you got to ask, for me, at least the way I look at it, is you got to ask that fundamental question. What's the incentive?
Exactly.
Yeah. What is the incentive that is going to get me back? Because there's a couple of different things that we're talking about there that are diametrically opposed, right? One is what's the incentive for the person to come back Two, what are the building owners now? Companies like CBRE and stuff like that, they're not too worried about it, right? I mean, because they're still riding the wave of big buildings being built. But to bring the people back to occupy so that you start to infuse that capital, to your point, 100%, it's an impact to the cities because it impacts their economic development. It impacts a number of other things in terms of bringing foot traffic there, with the exception of the weekends. And so you kind of have to incentivize the people to want to do that. Well, how do you do that? Well, it's not by taking away the dinners.
No.
Yeah.
Not only that, Bill, I'm hearing of folks that are like, they're so fed up because their company's making them go back in the office that they're willing to go look for another job where they can work from home because they're so over it. And they're like, not going back in the office.
But you know what? But here's the thing, maybe we were wrong all along. Because here's the thing. Before COVID, this wasn't a conversation. Like, I have a job, I go to the office. That's it. I have to be there at 8. I have an hour commute. I leave at 7, and I'm done at 5. It was what it was, right? And then, boom, we were forced and pushed into change. It's just that a few billion people just realized, you know what? I don't have to be there to do the work, man. It's just that simple. Oh. And once you realize that, the key word here, once you've experienced that, I did my job by changing the physical location and deliver the same, you cannot convince certain people of otherwise. And these are the people, to Stephanie's point, that are saying, okay, you want me to go back? Screw you. I'm going to go look for something else, because you can't take the experience away. So this really needs a whole rethinking. Do we need offices? Sure we do. But do we need the same things? Probably not.
It's definitely given a lot of control to the employee, where the employer used to be able to dictate everything they can anymore. And so that shift has been, I'm sure that some of these executive types are just losing their shit on this. Like, we don't know what to do to get people in the office, and we have nothing for them.
Yeah. Here's my indicator how bad it is. When Tim Cook says, get your ass back in the office, and people are not willing to go back to the coolest flying saucer office ever built in the history. I mean, it doesn't get any better than Apple Park. And if people won't go back there, then they ain't going anywhere. Bill, do you see things like, I wonder if we could see things like commercial office buildings being repurposed for housing, condominiums.
Absolutely.
That's a good idea.
That's the reason.
Low income housing, please. Low income. We don't need more $33 million penthouses. That's in Central Park, New York. Low income housing, please.
Hey, let's let Marc say something, since he jumped on and hasn't said a single word.
And he's smiling away.
Hi, Marc.
Hi. You are talking about too many interesting topics, by the way.
Yeah.
I had an anecdote here. I remember 10 years ago, I moved to Germany. My wife was relocated to Germany. And I asked to the boss of my boss if I could work from home, from Germany, to the same company, or I had to look for a job in Germany. And actually, the first thing that he asked me he was like, oh, good. I hope everything is going to go well in Germany, blah, blah, blah. And then I asked, but can I work from there for the same company? And he was like, oh, what? How can I know that you are working? Like, and then my question was, how do you know that I'm working? And his answer was, I know because you sit there in front of me. And I was like, what? So sitting in front of you means that I am working? Are you serious about this? So probably the mindset of these people is still this. And it's interesting because now I work at Balena, so it's a remote company, but it's a remote company since the creation of the company 10 years ago. Right. And I met Ray Ozzi, who is an investor of the company, and actually had an interesting conversation because he's on the board, and what he mentioned to me is that he was trying to convince since the very beginning to the CEO hey, you need an office, you need that all the people goes together, blah, blah, blah. And he mentioned and the CEO was like insane. So he wanted a remote company, yes or yes. And then the COVID came and and he demonstrated that a remote company it's possible. It works. So he got some lessons learned, and then probably a lot of people was asking him like, hey, how can we do this? How can we move from like office to remote? It's interesting how. But I also can understand that human interactions are hard to change for remote or
trust now.
When we met in Barcelona, right? Trust. So this was super different than just meeting here in Zoom.
Yeah.
And once they figured out that 4.5 hours over your 8-hour shift in front of the computer, you were watching sports, and they put in technology to blacklist all these websites and monitoring software. This is how it all starts. But we're in the office.
Here's the thing.
Right.
The thing that employers have the ability to do, and we've seen it over the last few months, is fire your ass and lay you off. So as much as people are we've kind of painted a picture that it's a hopeless case, that employers have no recourse. No, they can fire your ass. And, IBM actually gave people ultimatum. You either move close to a sales office so you can come in every day, or your ass is gone.
Wow.
And it was perfect for them because, every company wants to go through and, kind of weed out the underperformers. It gives them a platform to do that. And this was a long time ago. And this is back when most people were home-based employees. So they did this stuff a long time ago. It didn't work and then the people who went back to the office are the ones who wanted to keep their job, because in order to keep your job, you need to have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have, the only reason why we stick together is we know each other. We actually have like physical, real relationships. It's not based completely on virtual, right? Or if it is virtual, we invested a ton of energy into this to make it happen. But that's something to think about.
Well, if I think of it like this though. Here's the problem: the lower performing employees are the ones that are going to be more likely to move to the office, because they're like, oh no, I'm way overpaid and way underqualified for my job. I need this. I'm going to move. So those employees move, but the people who are rock stars, like, hold on, I know I'm amazing at my job. Yeah. I get job offers every week. That employee, they're gone, right? So you immediately lose all of your high performing top talent that have better options. And you got to be willing to say, okay, do we care more about trust? Do we care more about trusting our employees that they're capable of doing their jobs and seeing the results of their work? Or do we care more that they're in front of our faces and we know that they're blindlessly clicking on a spreadsheet somewhere to make themselves look productive?
But then those underperforming people can use ChatGPT to enhance their performance, or at least make it look like, misleadingly look like they've enhanced their performance, and they displace.
I think it's all a gamble no matter what, because there's a fine line between which ones do we give that ultimatum to, and which ones we know we can't, because we already know there's a skilled worker gap that's happening in certain industries.
So I think the best talented people managers, they know the answer, Stephanie.
They should know their people.
The best know, and they can have an honest conversation with the board and say, hey, if you want to cut people and you're going to cut these folks, we're going to be in a world of pain. Because another thing that happens is, again, you go from the management team that knows the employees and what part they play. You have the IBM example that Leonard shared. You also have the big ones where you have a third party that doesn't know the people and just basically tell you, hey, on paper, here's who you should let go based on some, algorithm or arbitrary decision. And one thing that's not talked about often is when people leave, one way or the other, doesn't matter. When people leave, the people that are left go like, whoa, they let go that person that knew things, and that person was really good, and this company decided to let that person go. I'm out of here.
Yep,
You know,
I've seen it.
it is a rolling, it's a slippery slope. But anyway, I absolutely agree with Ryan's comment, and Stephanie, again, the best managers know, they know, and mediocre managers, they have no idea because, well, they're mediocre.
Hey, it boils down to convenience.
Yes.
Well, people do and see, that's the thing. It's don't overestimate people. They will, it doesn't matter what you think is right or wrong. It's what ends up being convenient for that person. And if tools like ChatGPT can make their decision a little bit easier, say, hey, look, we're going to compartmentalize. We're going to pay a lot of money because we have a kick-ass business. We're going to compartmentalize our organization so that people are expendable, and we'll force people to come in because, again, especially in the creative world, if you're a coder, how do I know that you actually coded this stuff for you? And why am I paying you? Are you really that good? You're going to make yourself expendable, and this goes exactly to the point that you're making, Stephanie. Your job becomes commoditized, and the only way you can survive is proving that you did the work, that you have the talent, and that you're valuable and you're differentiated. If you can't do that, you're expendable. Out the door, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So come into the office when I tell you to come into the office.
What I've seen in co-working spaces lately, I will laugh since ChatGPT came out. In Austin, I go to coffee shops and stuff. The dual laptop work environment. So I see everyone with their MacBook doing the ChatGPT and then inputting it on the work, like Windows-based PC laptop.
No way.
I saw it yesterday. Yeah, and I've been seeing this like the past few months, like the trend of the double laptop work environment. I'm working remote. I'm ChatGPT in. I'm typing it in over here, and I'm just laughing like, oh my gosh.
This is the 2021 version of the mouse that keeps moving to keep your Slack alive.
The green online always Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
And build it and they will come.
All right, guys.
That's awesome.
All right, who wants to take us out? Stephanie?
Yes, because we've got these great shirts, right? You can get them. We'll put the link whenever we post this episode on IoTCoffeeTalk.com. So buy a t-shirt, all proceeds go and help our cause. What is our cause? Elevate our kids, elevateourkids.org. So definitely check that out and be a part of the conversation. IoTCoffeeTalk.com, and we'll see you next week. Happy 150th episode.
Awesome.
Congratulations. Have a great day.
Take care, guys.
Have a good week, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.